They got mad at him because in 3 months he was making more than any of the founders. They were pissed. I'm like, guys, I know have different backgrounds and cultures, but this is what you want. But it took them a long time culturally as self-serve, because Pipedrive was 100% self-serve at the time. They'd never had a sales rep, and I put the guy in. And what he did was he went and he looked all these self-serve customers. He's like, the company was at about 2 million revenue at the time. And he's like, okay, who's bought more than one seat? He just did a reverse sort and he called them. I remember he called AOL back in the day and he's like, you guys have 20 seats of Pipedrive. Would you like to buy more for your sales team? They're like, thank you very much. We'll take 100 seats. And he just went down the list from the top to the bottom. And he took home like 20% of those deals. Now that difference, that extra 80 seats at AOL, he brought it in. So Kim keeping 20% of that is a great deal for the company, right? But he was pretty good at it and he was the only person for a while. So he made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars when the poor company, the founders were paying themselves like 50.
So your advice there is don't be sad if your salesperson is making tons of money.
If you architect the simple sales plan we talked about and they're making a lot of money, you're making a lot of money and your equity is worth a lot of money.
Yep.
Your equity is worth a lot of money, right?
When do you make that switch from they're taking home 100% of it they're selling to smaller percentage?
Look, some people are going to think it's goofy what I said about 100. I just view it as a simple ramp. I think you could do it for 1 quarter max. 1 quarter. The problem is if you let this go for too long, more than a quarter, like if you make it too easy for long a quarter, the problem is the mediocre lean into it too much. And that doesn't help. Not only does it not help you, it doesn't help them. You don't want to make mishires. They're so you could have a whole podcast on it just on mishires. Like it's probably the single most important thing in scaling startups is not hires, it's mishires. But if it's a tragedy if you mishired a rep, but you don't want them there 6 months. It's not good for them either. You want to support them. You want to help them find a place where they're successful. And here's the quirky thing on the mishires. And this is why that first guy I hired was mid-pack at best, like he was less than mid-pack. Here's the thing about sales is, someone can be very good in certain sales environments and completely fail in other ones. Completely fail. It's probably more binary than any other function. And so you got to find it before you hire them. But you also got to root it out fast because those leads are too precious. And it doesn't mean they won't go on to another company and be wildly successful, but you could utterly fail. And the one related point I'll give, if I had to throw one hint on this any of these reps, first 10 and VP of sales, one hint more than anything else, trust me, you gotta hire someone whose last product was harder to sell. This is so important. This is a recipe for utter disaster. If you take someone in sales and their last product was easier to sell, they will have none of the skills to sell your product. But this is and I'll give you an example in a second. If you hire someone from something that was just a smidge harder to sell, and they come into your company, it's like they're on Mars. It's like weight has been released from their feet. Like they learned how to sell a harder product and get it done. And then they come to you. And the first example I had, the first SDR I hired was a guy named Sam Blond, who went on to be CRO at Brex and then now is a partner at Founders Fund. And we worked together from the very beginning, first SDR. And before that, he was an SDR at a company called Intact, which was bought for $1 billion, which was online